When people talk about the border, they often don't realize how many people are crossing back and forth on every single day.
Every day, yeah.
The fact that you are sitting there in the Netherlands as an immigrant has deep meaning. When you hear him talk about his mother, for example, you understand that we had a direct role in that. It's not like, oh, here's these people coming here. Look, if we didn't play the role that we played, they wouldn't have been coming. You know, about 1 in 27 people in the world is considered to be a migrant, meaning that person was born in one country and now resides in another country. And so about 300 million people, which is a little bit less than the population of the United States. Are you surprised it's that high or it's that low? Have any sense of that? I'm both surprised that it's not higher than that, and I'm surprised it's not lower than that. I can go one way or the other.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I do genuinely think that that number should be a lot higher.
It seems like it would be higher. People are moving around all the time, but not necessarily permanent migrants, right? So people will go to one area for a certain period of time and then back. This is the continent of origin. So Asia, which includes India, South Asia, is the subcontinent is 120 million, by far the most. But just kind of get a sense of that. That's the continent of origin. So this is the continent from which people are leaving to be migrants. What's the story in your family in general? How'd they get here?
So generally, just speaking from one of my parents' side, who I've talked to the most, my mom saw citizenship here during the Reagan administration under the Amnesty Act, and her siblings all at the same time did as well.
And you're down in San Diego.
Yes, I'm down in San Diego, yeah.
And there are so many immigrants in San Diego.
Everywhere.
Like
absolutely.
People just going back and forth across the border.
I used to a lot, actually. I used to walk across the border sometimes just to go to Tijuana, which is the border, the northernmost part of Mexico, towards bordering San Diego, for just leisure or medicine.
You know, Lori, my wife and I were down on the border in Arizona and New Mexico a year ago, and we were, kind of crossing back and forth, and people just carrying birthday cakes over, like, I'm going to a birthday party, and then, I'll be back in a couple hours, that kind of, it was just, the back and forth is profound. When people talk about the border, they often don't realize how many people are crossing back and forth on every single day.
Every day, yeah. The lines are long, both cars and walking and everything.
And that's the problem, right? Sometimes you might want to go see your grandmother or go to a birthday party, but you might get stuck for 2 hours or 3 hours, or it might be 10 minutes.
Unless you have Sentry or that pass, of course you have to pay for, but...
Emily, so you were born in Cuba?
Yes. I was born in Cuba, Pinar del Rio. So when I was born there, I stayed a lot of the time with my grandma because my mom worked in the University of Havana. So she was an engineering student, and a lot of her work had to do with traveling to Mexico or Venezuela. And that's how, due to her work, that's how we were able to migrate. Before I came to the US, I lived in Mexico for 3 months, and then I crossed the border from there.
Yeah. And Cubans, as a Cuban, you all have special status, really, because of, you have had special status because you're just automatically considered for some kind of political refugee status.
Yeah, the immigration process is easier for Cubans than for other people. It was much faster for us when we came over, since as soon as we touched ground, it was like ley seca. So just by touching the American soil,
Do other immigrants feel some kind of way about that, about Cubans? Like, wait, hang on, I'm not going to... Do other immigrants feel some kind of way about Cubans having it so easy?
I mean, I guess for most, it would be a little bit different. I guess, for the situation for the Cubans, since the economy was not the best, and throughout, it was hard to, reach the U.S. compared to how it would be easier for the other countries, because for most of, I guess, Central America and South America, since it's all connected, you could just easily access. But for Cuba, it's more of a difficult process to make it here than for other South American and Latino countries.
Yeah, and you don't, regardless of what happens to you, to your family in Guatemala, you could be being hunted by los narcos, right? But in Cuba, and you'd be like, listen, we are really refugees, but Cubans just are refugees by being Cubans, or have been. It's not necessarily the case now, but
Yeah, if I may add something, I think it's very interesting that Cuba is just nationally recognized by the United States as a country where its citizens can seek refugee status here in in America, but even you don't have to go a couple hundred miles down south in Mexico, and as you said, the narcos are ruining villages and cities.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people who flee those areas that are impacted by the narcos or the mafia are too seeking refugee status here in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating, right? Okay, Josue, how about you?
So my dad immigrated here legally. He got his citizenship before he came here in 2003. My mom immigrated here when she was 14 years old by herself. She was the oldest of 9 kids, and she came by herself. She got her papers in 2016 because her file was very complicated. I was born here in the U.S., but that's how they both came here to the U.S.
Man, by herself, man. Seriously?
Yeah. She only came with a backpack of clothes, I believe.
It's just so dangerous to do that. You talk to her about that journey? Have you had a conversation?
Yeah, I actually called her today because when I knew I was going to be talking in the class, I wanted to just clarify some of, the facts of all the stuff before I came up here just to talk about it. But I have talked to her about it and my dad about their process of coming to the U.S. because it's difficult from Guatemala because then you have to cross all through Mexico and then you would cross the border. And then they ended up working their way up to Pennsylvania.
Did she live in La Ciudad or in El Campo, or do you know?
I know in Guatemala she lived up in the mountains. I know I've seen her house where she lived in Guatemala is probably, I would say with all her siblings, even the house they lived in would be the size of a East Hall dorm, which is
like the screen smaller than the.
Yeah, probably. It's about, if you ever been in one of the East Hall dorms, it's about that size.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that sometimes people, that's why I want to have this conversation. Hey, Mr. Rashidi, why'd you leave Kabul? So you have protected status, you have residency in the Netherlands, but why'd you leave Kabul?
Because of Taliban. When I go to Iran, it was because of Taliban, and when I came to Netherlands, it was because of Taliban.
And you are there. This is the Taliban that took over Afghanistan, and you are there with your family.
Yeah. Yes. It's my story is inside is easy, and from Kabul airport to Netherlands, it was easy, and the other side was difficult. From my house to get to the airport, it was the difficult side of my it's a long story. I can not hear.
You know what? I'm gonna have the class read your story on for the next exam, which is coming up in a couple weeks, so they can read it. Yeah. So I'm gonna just say a couple things, Mr. Rashidi. So Rashidi and I go back about 12 years, right? 12. Yeah. And we've been working together, and we had a project that we did together in Afghanistan. And when the country fell, everybody on our team was in great danger because they were working with the United States and working on this project. So collaborating with us and collaborating with Penn State, and that was a problem for the Taliban. Our main member, Rafi is his name, who's worked with us the longest, he was being hunted by the Taliban. If he hadn't got out of Afghanistan, he would have been killed. Mr. Rashidi was not hunted directly by the Taliban, but had you stayed in Afghanistan, it's likely you would have been put into prison, and it's possible you would have been killed. So, but we, man, hard. I mean, I say that, Mr. Rashidi, with deep emotion, because you are my dear friend, and yeah, it's so intense. So the fact that you are sitting there in the Netherlands as an immigrant has deep meaning. Yeah, because I know Uma and the children spent time together. We have all of this anti-immigration sentiment, and ICE is growing. The numbers of people who are seeking out people who don't have their papers in order, who are either undocumented completely or simply don't have their papers in order. People are being deported. People have a real kind of negative feeling about immigrants. You know, who they are, who you are, who your family is, who your community is. And what I'd like to do today is just humanize a little bit. Humanize. Like, not in this deep liberal way. Like, oh, you should all support immigrants kind of way. Not that. What do you think people need to know?
I'd like people to know that, like, immigrants, even where I'm from, San Diego, California, are not too different than the people who work here in Pennsylvania. The immigrants I know that have come to the U.S. legally and illegally are teachers, professors, researchers, medical staff, safety, protection. They work for under agencies that keep cities running, on a daily basis. Those are the stories that they have, but they're working the same jobs as I'd say the average American would and should be working.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think? What do you want people to know about people who are undocumented, who come here as undocumented? What do you think? What do you think people don't understand? A lot of people. Maybe do you want to? How about Josue? Why don't you go and then we'll come back? What do you think people? It would be really nice if people understand.
I think what some people don't understand, like, for undocumented immigrants, is that sometimes they don't. I don't think that getting their papers is exactly on the top of their mind for when they're coming here. I think because most of them are escaping from horrible situations. So for them, I think their first thought of mind is, I need to get out of here. They need to flee from wherever they're from. So most of them don't exactly plan on, okay, let me apply for my papers months in advance. Let me leave right now. Their first thought is, there's something going down right now. I don't want this future for myself. I don't want it for my family. I need to leave the spot right now.
Or I'm in danger. I'm in danger, right? And the danger, you can't predict the danger. The danger just suddenly happens. Like in Guatemala, for.
Yeah, I think for my mom, she just grew up in it was not like, it was a very poor environment. She was growing up. She only got to go to 4th grade for her education system, and then she got pulled to help her mom work in the house and all that. And I know throughout the time, the Guatemalan Civil War was happening. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I guess she, seeing all that, she probably, I guess in her mind, she didn't want that for her family that she wanted to have. So her choice was to leave and to try to come to the U.S.
Wait, and how old was she again?
14.
Her choice at 14. And by the way, the Guatemalan Civil War was funded by the United States. So it was a fight against communism.
Yeah, what happened was Jacobo Arbenz, he bought the properties from the United Fruit Company to give it back to Guatemala. His plan was to give it back to the people, to the farmers of Guatemala, to help raise the economy. But what was happening was that the United Fruit Company, they were under representing the taxes that they were having through that land, which ended up, and then the U.S. ended up seeing Arbenz as a communist because it was the time of the Red Scare. So they ended up throwing him out of power. They brought a new leader in, and then that was one of the first starting steps into that civil war.
And one of the new leaders was a general and also a very, very strong fundamentalist Christian, Rios Montt, who really was responsible for massacring tens of thousands of people with weapons made by the United States. So the reason I say that is because when you hear him talk about his mother, for example, you understand that we had a direct role in that. It's not like, oh, here's these people coming here. Look, if we didn't play the role that we played, they wouldn't have been coming. And that's really important that people understand. It's this vicious cycle here. And me, so I know about this. I mean, I'm a Latin Americanist. My training for all of my doctoral work and my graduate work is in Latin America. So this is something that I studied every day for 8 years.
It's hard to answer when, like, from my position, because as an immigrant myself, I'm not really thinking about what others think, especially since I grew up in Miami. It's immigrants all around. My school was pretty much all Cubans. So in my position, I can't really think about what other people think as me, myself, as an immigrant, because all I'm focusing is about doing good enough in school so my mom is proud of me and I could be in a better situation than she was. I think that maybe a little bit more considerate towards the process that, and like everything that we put on a line to get here and migrate over here, especially how long it takes to get the papers done. I became a U.S. citizen in 2022, and I came here in 2012. So it took my mom 10 years to get her papers because it takes time. It's a lot of money. When we come here, we don't have all the money in the world. We don't have all the resources in the world. So it takes time to get back up on our feet and to be able to get our papers. We wish that it would be that simple. We wish that every immigrant in the world could have the same opportunities where we could just come here legally, right? But some others don't have that opportunity. So it's difficult and it's different for everyone's, especially in their experience.
When you heard what I just said about Guatemala, you know, that's a story. It's a common story in Latin America.
Going off what she said a little bit too, like it does take time to get those like papers, like especially depending on your file. Like my mom's file, it was very complicated for her, so she came into the country, but she didn't get her citizenship until 2016. She wasn't allowed to take the test until 2016, and only I believe 3 years before that she was able to get her green card.
So it's a really complicated story. But you would expect it to become. Look, she came at the age of 14 without any papers. She crossed over the border. So you would expect it to be complicated, right? I mean,
yeah, but
nobody thinks it's not going to be. But the issue is, but we don't necessarily know the stories, right? I mean,
yeah, I guess for like what most immigrants are, like, either they're going through the process or, they're still like, they're just trying to get the funds to get into that process.
Yeah.
So it's hard to, when people, you just choose the people off the street and you just send them back. Like, you don't know, like, oh, but they were, maybe they were in the process of getting the funds to start applying for their citizenship, or they're working, or they're already in the process, and it's not the people's fault. It's because the government's backed up in trying to get them the papers.
And it's a very, very complicated way of, yeah.
Just to exemplify that, like the paperwork process is so long and excruciating. Depending on how many people in your family, it can be a nightmare. And I mean, I feel like I can speak for a lot of people. When they immigrate here to the United States, the first thing that they're looking for is protection and where can I work to earn money to feed my family. I know that's part of my family felt that. Where can I work? Who will take me? What job? At least the bare minimum. Can I receive money so that I can make sure that my kids or myself have food on their plate?
Yeah, because you can't receive benefits for most of history. I mean, and there was a period in the Biden administration when immigrants got some things, but not a lot. and you can't rely on the government for social services or anything. So you got, if you don't do it yourself, you're in deep trouble. Mr. Rashidi, what do you? So here you are, this Afghan citizen. You worked for NATO, and we worked with the Dutch military. That's how you ended up in the Netherlands, because we had a project with the Dutch military, and so you put your life at risk in Afghanistan in order to work with people in the military in the Netherlands. And so, what do you want people to know about people like yourself?
Yes, first of all, I say, most of the time we think for a better tomorrow of and we are afraid of a bad tomorrow. Because of that,
you're afraid of going backwards. Yeah.
No, not just me. The Netherlanders of the people here in Netherlands, the Dutch people, and also, yes, we are afraid of bad tomorrow, of better living. Just we are searching the reason. What's the reason we are afraid of? One thing is immigrants. I think it is an easy answer. Yeah. Yes. They think.
Let me ask you this question: What do you want? What do you want?
I want nothing. Nothing. Yeah, just to live here. I don't think about myself most of the time. Most of the time, I think about my children, to have a good education, to have a safe life, especially for my wife and for my daughter. As if they weren't in Afghanistan, they couldn't go to school, and they couldn't go to work of